I didn't really expect this game to be the jarring experience that it was. I felt disoriented, trapped, unsure of what's real, just like the character. But be warned, it's gonna get weird, and I wouldn't blame you if this was hard to follow. The game uses routine to mess with your head, which is something that I can appreciate when done correctly. So, this is a story about what isolation does to your identity and sanity when you're stuck with your guilt, your fantasies, and your trauma that you hate, but in a weird way, and also that you sometimes need. Or at least that was the sick and twisted feeling that swelled up inside of me as I went through this. So tonight, we're going through this story together. I'm going to present the experience so that you can see what happens, but at the very end, there will also be some extra thoughts that I had on a few aspects of this game, which I would be curious to see what your opinions are on those. Remember, this is a story explained, not a lore video. There is a difference. With me, you're getting answers and a journey. If you enjoy story deep dives or psychological analyses, hitting that like button encourages me to keep making more for you, and since you are still here, you are coming with me. So let's find out if
no one lives under the lighthouse.
Our adventure starts in a dark circular room, the first floor of the lighthouse, where all you can hear are the echoes of our footsteps. We observe a spiral staircase and 2 doors. The arched door is locked, not leaving us any choice but to open the second one with a low creaking. Once done, we enter a small room with only 4 large barrels and an oil lamp placed on a little table. We pick up said lamp before going down the hatch on the floor. This is where we see it, a silhouette in the dark, and so we decide to follow it. But we realize, once we reached the end, it was in fact only a shadow of ourselves. Nothing more to see. Back in the previous room, we get some oil and head out. Suddenly, loud knocks bang on the door, but when we try to open it, it's still locked. Who was outside? Heading upstairs, we reach a floor where we find a phonograph. We finally hear something else other than the deafening sounds of silence. But moving forward, we crank and raise the counterweight to the top of the lighthouse to get the light rotating and pour oil in. The music and camera angles really give this game an indie cinematic horror vibe to it. I really liked it. As we rode towards the island, a man indicates to us that the previous keeper disappeared, which is strange because I thought that I was the keeper just then, but I guess that was somebody else. He gives us the rundown of the job expectations, saying that he's going to be back in 1 week, but he also leaves us with a cautionary note to not go mad here on this isolated island. Now, by this point, the cylinders in my mind are starting to fire up. What did we just see? Someone else's POV? Was it all a dream? Was it a premonition? I'm not sure, but moving on, we walk from the shores towards the lighthouse. Along the path, we find a small house and enter it. I wonder what this black slime on the floor is, though. But that aside, this is where we're going to live, and it has all of our basic necessities. But stepping back out, time seems to have jumped ahead because now, the atmosphere is completely different. Dark clouds rolling in signals to us that it's time to do our job. Pretending like that didn't just happen, we ascend the tower and bring light to the sea. The next morning, we would find more of that black sludge trailing into the house and to our bed. And it even led outside, but what is this stuff? What's producing it, and was it watching me sleep? At the top of the lighthouse, we would find a towel and even more of that black substance, which we clean right up. Deciding to visit the beach and investigate what we saw earlier, we find that overturned boat cracked in half with more pools of black sludge. Something was trapped here, but it broke its way out. However, it also left something behind, a circular key, which actually fits perfectly in the chest back at the house. If you played this game, something to note here is that I never actually find all of the keys, so I don't end up discovering what's locked inside here, but if you know what's in here, could you let me know? Moving forward, we head to the lighthouse to spend some time cleaning up more of that black sludge that happened to also end up on the windows somehow. And once again, oddly enough, time seems to have displaced us, because now it is nightfall. When we go back in, we hear a loud bang, but stranger still, something seems to have slimed across the stone walls of the lighthouse, and at first, I was concerned about how long it would take to clean this mess up, but then I realized something demonic might be haunting me. So I took out my cross and descended, half hoping to find out what this thing was, half hoping I wouldn't. Then, at the bottom of the lighthouse, we ran into a new problem. The bags to counterweight and rotate the light were missing, but who took them? I am the only one on this island. Regardless, we had to head outside to find more of those bags, but when we do, something would be right behind me. It roared, had long spider-like legs and chased me, but I could see it. I could see me from the monster's perspective. I was chasing myself into the shed where I regained consciousness of myself. After mustering up the courage to head back out, I finally finished the job, but that's when our vision gets blurred and moths would begin to show up. Just one at first, then more, then too many. So many that the glass on the windows would start to crack. Then the light would flicker and stop, leaving us in darkness. Luckily, the insects decided that they weren't interested in us without light and left, leaving behind cracked windows and an unnervingly long silence. The next day is the same as before, waking up in that small bedroom, but something is off. The air is heavier. Thunder rolls outside, loud enough to shake the walls, and the rain hits the windows like it's angry. Now, part of me wants to stay in bed and pretend it's just another storm, but the lighthouse doesn't care how I feel, and the light needs to be lit. But when I turn around, just like yesterday, there's more of that black goo on the floor. So, first task of the day, I grab the broom and I start cleaning it up. But I can't help but continue to think about the thunder outside. It doesn't sound right. It rumbles too low, too sharp. More like a growl, a roar. I grab the cross and I go outside. The rain's coming down so hard I can barely see through it, but I push forward, make it to the shed, then I grab a shovel. I notice a mound of dirt outside and I dig, but what I found was a dead seagull buried underneath. And who buries seagulls? Not sticking around too much to think, I continue, but that's when the shift happens again. Just like before, I'm no longer myself, I am it. The creature, legs stomping and scraping across the soaked earth. I chase after the keeper, watching him run for his life through the storm. But he finds shelter in the house while I, whatever I am, vanish. Returned into my own body again, I walk towards the place where the creature came from, and I dig. Somehow, buried in the dirt, there's the oil can and the lighthouse key. But they shouldn't be here. So if the creature left them here, how? With those huge and spiny legs? I try not to think about it too hard and I just head for the tower. Same routine, I fill the can, crank the mechanism, top off the reservoir. But on the way out, I notice the phonograph has stopped again when I had started it. And so I restart it, but the music doesn't sound right anymore. It's like it's warped or corrupted. Are you losing your mind yet? Things start to get frustratingly difficult to comprehend. You see, I would go down to refill the oil can one more time. Then I would come out, but there would be no music. Silence, despite me just hearing the distorted music. I just turned it back on. And so I would head back up to check the phonograph. But now I notice that the bags need raising again. And the bulb, the light, it needs more fuel, but I just topped it off. So I reach for the can, but it's empty. What is going on? I swear I just filled it up. So I go back down, annoyed, but I make sure that it's full this time. It's like someone else is in here messing with everything that I just did. However, in the fuel room, something's changed. There's the black sludge on the floor again. Wasn't here before. Everything starts to break down at once. Back up top, the light goes out. The bags are down. Nothing is working. I head below to refill the can again. Third time? Fourth time? I can't even remember how many times now. Then when I get back to the room, something bangs on the hatch in the floor, hard, and all the barrels are missing. I don't know about you, but my gut tells me to leave it alone. However, I open the hatch anyway. Down there, in the dark, I find the missing barrels. Some are cracked. Their contents leak across the floor like blood. But I collect what I can and I drag it back upstairs. One crank, one last top up for the light. But that sense of someone else being here right next to me doesn't go away. Heading to the kitchen, we briefly see a silhouette at the window, but before we can react, it disappears as quickly as it came. The kitchen, it's in absolute disarray, but whatever fell through the roof is nowhere to be seen. After cleaning it up in here, we head out to fix the roof. However, I can't help but feel like I'm still being watched. I do not feel safe. Behind the oppressive fog, I'm being harassed by violent sounds, low grumbles and sharp noises. Whatever beast is out there, it seems to be getting closer and closer. But before I know it, it's night. Time to go to the tower and begin our routine. I can't wait to find out what's going on. I'm so confused. But we fill up the reservoir, making the lighthouse shine bright. So we head back down. But we catch a glimpse of a shade right next to the phonograph for a fraction of a second. Was someone actually there, or is this loneliness killing me? Now, I was about to head back to the house to sleep, but the door was locked. And then I heard the key clank in the room over. When we open the door, we witness a hand coming out of the hatch, snatching our key before disappearing down below. Before following it into the dark, we noticed an empty bottle on the table. Somebody's been having a little bit to drink. Under the lighthouse, we carefully walk in the corridor, but somehow it's longer than usual. Way longer. The walls around us seem to twist and contort in impossible ways. Then, there was the sound of a growl behind us, sending a chill through our spine before hearing loud and aggressive footsteps coming after us. Is it the creature from earlier? Turning around to let it take me, if we slow the footage down, we can actually get a better look at the monster. It's disgusting to look at, but it almost seems like it used to be human, gnarly and demented. But needing to escape, we find a hole and jump down into the void. The tower shines in the dark until morning comes, and then we learn that the previous keeper disappeared. Again. It's a loop, and it's spiraling. Or, it's been spiraling. But for how long? Moving forward, we found that we've landed on a pile of skulls deep under the lighthouse. These almost alien ramparts are facing us, and we start walking around until we reach a path leading us further below. How is all of this down here? Who built all of this? Why are there so many bones here, and is this where all the missing lighthouse keepers went? Eventually we would find another crank, and It's kind of familiar, so we attach something to it and we lower the chain below. I wonder if we just fed something. All in all, just another day's work, isn't it? Heading down shifting rooms and walls covered in blood, we would eventually find a large silhouette kneeling in what seems to be a sacrificial circle. It holds a dagger and a wide bowl. But then everything changes again, and we wake up on the shores surrounded by empty bottles. So was that all just a dream? Did we just pass out? Do I drink too much? Behind us, the boat, previously cut in half, seems to be perfectly fine now. But we head towards the other end of the island and are surprised to find a church? And right next to it, a few tombs? This definitely wasn't here before, right? Then there's also a house that's standing there, but there's no way to see what's inside. It's as if this whole island just changed, and as we head towards the lighthouse, we discover new houses and even a well. I am so confused. I don't know what is real or not. Fortunately, our house is still there, but the shelves in the corridor aren't here anymore and the beds have changed positions. There's also bottles on the ground, but that's when someone starts hammering the door. It's a man, wondering where the keeper is because the lighthouse is unattended. Heading to the lighthouse and getting into routine, everything seems normal. I can appreciate normal. But that is when, from the corner of our eye, we see the shade of a man. Only this time, it doesn't disappear. Instead, we blip back to the underworld. Walking through these ever-changing halls, we follow narrow corridors and long staircases, trying to find our way out of this ominous dungeon. And soon, we would come to a bridge with odd chandeliers hanging from wherever the roof was, and we walk carefully towards a triangular entrance where we're greeted by a long and leaking worm hanging from the ceiling. Dripping from its mouth is that same black sludge that we keep seeing all around the island, and even now I'm still uncertain about what exactly this stuff is. Heading over to one side, we get a sacrificial dagger. Heading over to the other, we find a cadaver, and we cut something out of the body, then feed it to the worm. Doing this shifts us back to the island. There are other people here, and we're at the top of the lighthouse, but now there are bottles of alcohol all around. The constant and sudden shifts between worlds and realities is enough to drive anybody insane. I don't know if I'm in hell, having a nightmare, or hallucinating. However, we decide to see what those people outside are doing, and so approaching them, they're just staring at a grave. But then, daylight again. The grave has a fresh pile of dirt on it. Behind us is an odd man just standing there. Talking to him, he tells us something cryptic. "For the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything. Neither have they any more a reward, for the memory of them is forgotten." One might recognize that this is a verse from the Bible, Ecclesiastes 9:5. But the main idea of this verse is that life is fleeting. Our lives are short, but our deaths are total. So live and act now, because once you're dead, you stop existing. Your consciousnesses will cease, and eventually, the memory of you will be completely wiped from this plane of existence. And when that happens, that will be your second death. But I'm still wondering, what could be under this pile of dirt? So, digging it up, we unearth a coffin, and opening it, moths burst out, and then nothing. I wonder what the significance of moths are in this game. If you know, please comment and give me your theories. Completely lost, we wander on the shores to find a man standing at a makeshift port. And he too has another biblical verse. "He that sacrifices unto any god, save unto the Lord only, he shall be utterly destroyed." And now I wonder if he's referencing to the hell that lives under the lighthouse, or if it's the alcohol that the keeper worships so much. We walk back to our house and find a shovel drawing near the entrance, but once we open the door, it is back to this nightmare. And trying to find our way out, the monster that's been haunting me starts hunting me. Playing tag with the demon in this scene was actually crazy, and my heart was racing because I was trying so hard not to get caught. But eventually, we escape and we head down a long pathway as everything would fade to black. Back at the lighthouse, the bulb is lit. Rain crashes against the windows and everything feels hazy, like the job's already been done, but we don't remember doing it. Bottles of alcohol scatter across the floor, and maybe I do drink too much, but then again, maybe I deserve it. Maybe I deserve this alcoholic punishment. Maybe I deserve to sleep with the demon at the bottom of this bottle. So downstairs I stumble, fading in and out of consciousness, and when I open my eyes, I'm standing on what feels like an endless bridge suspended in a void, one foot after the other until the tunnel opens into something impossible. Gigantic statues loom around us, creatures that we can't name, chains hanging from the ceilings, and in the center, a massive crank, always a crank, and I turn it, and the circular platform beneath us begins to descend. And when it stops, we're surrounded by bones, dozens of skeletons littered on the floor, some crumpled, some sprawled like they died mid-crawl. But when I turn to the elevator, it's already gone. And then we hear it. A scream, a howl, a screech, or something like them, echoing in the dark. Heavy footsteps thunder in. The monster is here. Naturally, my body starts to run, but there's nowhere to go, and it lunges out of the darkness, tearing into me again and again, until I jump down the hole. I can't take it anymore. The shifts in time and perspective are tormenting me. First, we're in a boat dropping me off on the island. Then it's nighttime and red lights are blasting out of the windows of all of these houses here. I knock on the doors, demanding that they open up. I know you're there. Where is he? Open up. Who is he? Exactly. What am I talking about? Before I can even blink, I am below, surrounded by strange fleshy walls. Then back rowing on the boat again before I'm on the island once more, but this time in the golden sun. Running to church, I bang on the doors, desperately trying to seek help, but then I fall to the floor. We hear voices saying that we, the keeper, are going crazy, losing ourselves in alcohol as we chase after our son by wandering around this island all day, forgetting who we are and why we are here. Why am I here? Why can't I leave? Where is my son? Once I open my eyes again, I seem to be blocked under something. So, smashing out with all of my strength, it's the broken boat from days ago, except it was me. I'm the one who broke out of it. We slowly ascend, coughing our lungs out until we reach our house, where then I would vomit black bile. And then I am the monster. It's always been me. It's always me. Crawling on the walls of the lighthouse, leaving trails where I walk, eating the weights and chasing myself down corridors all across the island. Then I see myself in the mirror, but I am no longer young. Age has come for me. The chase pervades under the pouring rain all the way to the lighthouse where we find ourselves trying to kill ourselves. But I have a shotgun, and I'm shooting myself. After a salvo of attacks, we put an end to this, and of course everything, as always, goes dark. Next thing I know, we're in a blood-red church. In the center, a giant object, but touching it, a deep low voice, speaking in a language unknown, welcomes us into the Oblivion Chapel again, as if we've come here often. For 1,000 times, apparently we've been here, and for that many times we've failed our trials just as God has failed us. And this was all in the pursuit of myself and of what happened to my son. But one thing remains resonant. Repentance is coming. What happened to my son? Where is he? I had this weird dream. In it, I'm sitting in the kitchen with another bottle, talking to myself, but turning away for a moment, I'm gone. And my perspective is just one. In this dream, I am my son. But that is not my son. It's still me. In the room is a book, a special book. Is this the Necronomicon? A magical book, but a way for me to bring my son back, to resurrect him from death. So, flat out, to my understanding, this entire thing is about a father, a lighthouse keeper, who lost his son in some unexplained way and he's trying to find him or bring him back. Part of me wonders if he himself caused his son's death and maybe got exiled on this island as a result. But, I mean, the father has a gargantuan amount of guilt. And why be guilty unless you had a direct hand in something? So maybe this causes him to become a raging alcoholic, adding to the issues on top of being isolated on an island. You guys already know how detrimental isolation is because humans are naturally social creatures. But at some point, the lighthouse keeper would try to bring his son back by using the grimoire. But that book, that magic, that knowledge comes at a price, hence the otherworldly things that we see happen in this game. But okay, so now you understand the experience and saw what happened. I want to address some things. First and foremost, what is the lighthouse and what does it represent? The lighthouse is the central symbol of the game, and on top of being a job, it is also a burden. It's meant to represent duty, guidance, and perhaps even redemption in a way. You arrive to replace a missing keeper, but quickly fall every time into the same psychological spiral. It's almost like you're in a loop, and all of the missing keepers were just you, previous versions of you this whole time. Silent Hill 2 vibes.
How many times do I have to kill you?
Eddie? Whoa, Eddie, it's me.
Oh. Hi, James.
And the other thought that I had when thinking about the lighthouse was the light itself, how it pierces through the darkness, how it shines through the dark. More specifically, how that concept mirrors the idea of confronting hidden truths, even the ones that we repress. But the catch is, this light doesn't save anybody, it just watches. And as the game goes on, you begin to wonder whether it's a beacon, a light that repents darkness, or a prison. Are you the watcher, or are you the one being watched? Then there's the thing under the lighthouse, the demon, which is never clearly defined, and to be honest, I'm fine with it because I think it's intentional. If we're trying to view what that is apart from the Lovecraftian influence, I think it's a deeply personal and repressed version of the Keeper. It often comes out at night when he's vulnerable, and it drags him down into the depths. So, you could probably look at this and interpret it as grief that was never processed, guilt over a past mistake, repression of trauma, or emotion that festers when you ignore that trauma. The creature is what's been buried under the job, under the silence, under the routines. The Keeper is the one who hides, the one who knocks, the one who lives under the lighthouse. And you can try to ignore and keep the monster under something, but eventually it breaks out and it consumes you. But what about isolation? The daily routines, the filling of the oil, the cleaning, the cranking, it all lulls you into a false sense of control. And as time stretches and the island warps, so too does your mind. The looped time, the degraded visuals, and the sudden jumps in logic all simulate the disintegration of your identity. And these are all negative effects of prolonged isolation. You see, it is about being isolated from the world, from other people, but it's also being isolated from your memories, from your past, and eventually from your humanity. And the missing keeper, the previous keeper, was and always will be a warning, because you're following in his footsteps, literally repeating his routines and ending up in the same fate. You walk his path, you end up down in the same place where he did. The idea here is cycles, how people inherit trauma, roles, or guilt and repeat that same destruction if they never face it. Don't refuse to face something painful. Whether that's grief, guilt, trauma, or even your own identity, what this game is saying, if it's saying anything at all, is that if you bury it, it will not die. It festers, it waits, and eventually it pulls you under. The lighthouse might be a place to shine light into the dark, but nobody actually lives under that light. The real person, the real pain, is buried in the dark under a hatch below. But what about Comic-Con? For those who are unfamiliar, it is a fictional grimoire created by horror writer H.P. Lovecraft. This Necronomicon is frequently referenced across his mythos, and in many games it's also a source of forbidden knowledge. That is what it represents. It contains rituals, incantations, and cosmic truths that allow mortals to summon ancient beings, otherworldly beings, access to alternate dimensions, and even attempt resurrection. But it is always considered dangerous, often leading readers and users towards madness or death, or sometimes even fates worse than death. Lovecraft created this as a tool of horror and a symbol of humanity's fragile grasp on reality. Humans should not try to seek, understand, or use that which cannot be sought, understood, or used. But in regards to the Lighthouse Keeper, while the Necronomicon does include resurrection rites, they're never as what one wishes for, because the dead may return, but they're often incomplete, corrupted, or possessed by eldritch entities. But also, those who use the book risk more than just failure. They risk tearing holes into the fabric of reality, inviting in forces beyond comprehension, sometimes world-ending forces. Further consequences include psychological collapse, physical transformation, and becoming a puppet for greater beings. The list goes on and on. No power without ramifications. Punish curiosity.
Maria?
You said you took everything. But you forgot that videotape we made. I wonder if it's still there.